Um, yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I'm really glad to be to share this morning with you. Um, yeah, so I'm a postdoc researcher at the Social Media Information Lab at Rutgers. And what we do in the lab is we look at social media data and we try to better understand people's behavior, understand communities, and what I do, I try to tell the stories of cities through social media data. But I'm not the first one who's trying to do that. Back in the 60s and in the 70s, a lot of people, mostly from urban studies, try to understand the city better, understand the different areas of a city, understand how people use cities. People like Stanley Milgram and Kevin Lynch and William White all try to understand better how a city operates. And today, when we talk about social media, we have all kinds of information, flows of information that go through the different machines that we use, laptops, mobile phones. And just for example, you can see that all kinds of apps like FOURSQUARE and Instagram and Twitter have huge amounts of information. FOURSQUARE has 30 million users with 3 billion check-ins. Instagram has 100 million users with 4 billion photos. And Twitter has 500 million users with 350 million tweets per day. And my question is, how can we take this data and better understand our life, our daily life, our cities? So FOURSQUARE. FOURSQUARE is an application, an app, like Dave showed you, that you can download to your phone. But the thing is that it's a social app. It's a social app. And you might have seen this sticker in all kinds of restaurants or bars that you go to. And what's special about FOURSQUARE is that it's an app that encourages people to share their location with their friends. So what happens is that you download the app to your phone. You create a profile for yourself, just like you have a profile on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And then you add friends to the app. And then when you go to places, you go to a bar, you go to a restaurant, you can check in to that place. So this is, for example, a check-in screen on the app. So you open your phone. You need a smartphone for that because the app uses the GPS capabilities of the app, of the mobile phone. And when I open the app, I see a list of all nearby venues, all nearby locations. And then I can select the one that I want to check into. When I check into a place, all my friends on the network get a notification that I'm there. Okay, so this is one of the main reasons people use FOURSQUARE, to share the location. And the thing is that we're at the lab, we try to do research, and we try to not understand only the individual user, but also to see what kind of insights we can get from gathering all this information together and aggregate it together. So now I'm going to play a short video. Yeah. So this is data from FOURSQUARE from New York City and Tokyo.
Where is it?
It's in the folder. Yeah. Uh-huh. So what happens is when you take all these check-ins, or individual check-ins of me going to a bar, and then taking billions of check-ins together and visualizing that, you can see patterns of cities. You can see different types of uses of places during the different times of the day. So here you can see, for example, New York City on your left, Tokyo on your right, and you can see how the city changes throughout the day. There's the time indication on the top, and then the dots are colored by the type of venue. So residence, food, college, university, and you can see all of these patterns through the data. Which is kind of remarkable, right? I mean, seeing the pulse of a city from people's actual behavior in real life. So today I'm going to tell you about a project that I've been working on with some other researchers at Carnegie Mellon University. And this project is called Livehoods. And it all started when we looked at the neighborhood, the municipal neighborhood borders map. So neighborhoods, what are neighborhoods? We started thinking about how do we define neighborhoods. A lot of people wrote about it. But neighborhoods are places that provide order to the chaos of the city. They help us to determine where to live, where to work. When you move to a new city, you usually ask people there, where's the nice neighborhood? Where should I live? Where's the area that you recommend me to spend most of my time there? And when I ask you, try to visualize your neighbor. Try to tell me, think about your neighbor in your mind for a second. I guess you won't think about that. That's not the first image that will come up. And this is the Pittsburgh Municipal Neighborhood Borders Map. So you can see the different neighborhoods on a map. But this is not how we think about neighborhoods, right? We think about different things. We think about the bakeries, we think about the shops, we think about the people in our areas. And a lot of people try to study these different perceptions of a city. So for example, back in the 60s and the 70s, Kevin Lynch and Stellar Milgram tried to understand how people understand their neighborhood and the cities by this idea of mental maps of a city. And they asked people to draw how they feel their neighborhood should look like, how the city seems in their mind. And there are actually two perspectives. So one is a politically constructed idea of a neighborhood. So this is the map I showed you before. But then there's also the socially constructed neighborhood, as you can see from the mental maps that people drew. So we thought about how we can rethink neighborhoods and neighborhoods borders and mapping neighborhoods through social media data, through data from FOURSQUARE check-ins. And our hypothesis was that the character of an urban area is defined not just by the type of places that are found there, but also the people that go there, right? So it's not only the physical place, it's also the type of crowd that goes there. So we started and looked at a map of cities, a map of a city. And we tried to understand how check-in data can help us map these different areas of a city. So if we watch check-ins over time, and we aggregate all these data, all these individual check-ins to a vast amount of check-ins, we can start and see areas where people tend to stay. So different people will tend to stay in different parts of the city. And when we compute these areas, we can actually start seeing different neighborhoods, different what we call livelihoods. And this is all based on people's behavior, people activity. We don't ask people to tell us where they think their neighborhood is. This is based on their actual going to a place and checking into the place and us aggregating the data. So if you have a laptop or an iPod or iPad or whatever, you're welcome to log on to livehoods.org. And this is a website that we created for the project. That actually has all the maps for different cities. So you can start by going to the other tab first. Yeah. Okay, so when you log into Livehoods, there's a button that says Maps, and then there are maps of all kinds of cities. And you can click on New York City. And this is our mapping. And it's kind of confusing at first, but let me describe it a little better. So each dot on the map represents a place, a venue. So a bar, a restaurant, an office, whatever. And then the different colors represent different areas. So there's no meaning for like the same type kind of blues or same kind of reds. It's kind of a limitation of Google Maps. But the idea is that you can see that there are different areas mapped by people's activity, by people's behavior in the city. And when we click on a certain area, so we get the details about that area. So we can see what's popular in that place. We can also see what the unique things that happen over there. When we click on the statistics tab, we can see the daily and hourly pulse of the place. So we can see which areas are more active during the week and which time of the day. You can see the different composition of venues, of types of places that are there. So here there's a lot of restaurants and a lot of home and office. But what's also interesting is that in addition to remapping the city based on people's activity, we can also see the relations between the different areas. So if we click on the related tab, we can see where are the top 5 related areas to that area, which means we can see relations in between physical areas of a city based on where people go. So that means that a lot of people that went to the brown area also went to these other areas in the city. And you can actually learn a lot of things about the city and about the structure of the city from this data. So if we click back on character and we zoom to Brooklyn, Williamsburg. So for example, you can see that there's a very sharp division between the gray and the brown. And the division is the BQE. The BQE just divides that entire area to two different types of groupings of people. And if you heard about Jane Jacobs, one of most influential writing is about the effect of urban renewal and highways and for example, the BQE about on local communities. And you can actually see that from the data here. So there's a lot of promise in using social media data, aggregated social media data, to understand better, first of all, where people go, but also the relations between different areas of a city and how people use these locations. So I'll go back now to the PowerPoint. Yeah. Okay, so you ask yourself, well, we're working with transportation. How can that help us? So we think that using this kind of information, using social media data, can help planners better understand how people use cities. And as I showed you, looking at related areas that have strong relations can help planning of transportation. Mostly right now it's based on existing transportation routes. But you can also find the missing links, the areas that are not connected. And you can also create temporal analysis on large scale. So you can actually see times of day where people go and check in into different areas of the city. And by that, you can better understand what kind of services, transportation services, these people need. So I think that's about it for today. This is my email, my Twitter account, and my website. Thank you.
Questions?